The House will be in order. The chair lays before the House a communication from the Speaker.
The Speaker's Rooms, Washington, D.C., November 17th, 2025. I hereby appoint the Honorable Tony Weed to act as Speaker Pro Tempore on this day. Signed, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Pursuant to the order of the House of January 3rd, 2025, the chair will now recognize members from lists submitted by the majority and minority leaders for morning hour debate. The chair will alternate recognition between the parties, with time equally allocated between the parties and each member other than the majority and minority leaders and the minority whip limited to 5 minutes. But in no event shall debate continue beyond 1:50 p.m. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Joyce, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week, we will vote on legislation to improve our domestic energy market and support President Trump's agenda on U.S. energy dominance. In my home state of Pennsylvania, we have abundant natural gas reserves. We can utilize this resource that is under the feet of my constituents to provide tremendous economic benefit to our country and support the energy needs of our allies. Unfortunately, over the last 4 years, energy policy has stalled the necessary development of pipelines and export facilities. This has hindered natural gas production and prevented us from fully realizing the benefit of this critical resource. The United States' ample energy resources are a distinct advantage over our global competitors. We can leverage this advantage to the benefit of my constituents and the benefit of all Americans by advancing this important legislation and putting energy policy in this country back on track. As a member of the Energy and Commerce Committee, I was proud to work to advance this legislation to the House floor, and I look forward to seeing it pass through Congress on the way to being signed into law by President Trump. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to join in commemorating the 75th anniversary of the James E. Van Zandt VA Medical Center in Altoona, Pennsylvania. 33 years after the VA Medical Center in Altoona was opened, Congress renamed the facility in honor of the former U.S. Representative James E. Van Zandt, who was the catalyst for the establishment of the VA Medical Center in Altoona. Representative Van Zandt was born in Altoona, elected to 11 terms in the U.S. House, served with the United States Navy in both World War I and World War II, and was the national commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars from 1934 to 1936. He retired as a Rear Admiral from the United States Navy Reserve in 1959. The legacy of devoted service that distinguished the life of Representative Van Zandt remains as a source of inspiration for all. I am proud that my longstanding ties to the Van Zandt VA Medical Center include my service as a consultant serving our veterans. On behalf of everyone in the Pennsylvania 13th Congressional District, I congratulate the James E. Van Zandt Medical Center on this important milestone and express my personal gratitude for the excellent health care that has been provided to the veterans there, continuing today and into the future. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor 4 generations of the Black family in Tyrone Township, Blair County, Pennsylvania, on the designation of their farm as a century farm by the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. James Black purchased the farm in Black, who transitioned the operation from a poultry farm to a dairy farm, and then to Samuel's son, Bob Black, who chose to focus on crop farming. Today, Black's Willow Run Farm is owned by Bob Black's son, Clinton, and his wife, Jessica. Crops grown on the farm include corn, wheat, soybeans, and alfalfa. On behalf of everyone in Pennsylvania's 13th Congressional District, I offer heartfelt congratulations to all members of the Black family on this notable recognition and express gratitude for their enduring commitment to one of Pennsylvania's most vital industries, and that is agriculture. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize Krista Pontius on her selection of the recipient of the 2025 Pennsylvania Golden Owl Award. Krista is a longtime agriculture teacher and the FFA advisor at Greenwood High School in Millerstown, Pennsylvania. With pride, Krista notes that she has devoted nearly 30 years to creating an FFA family at the high school. The Golden Owl Award is one of the most prestigious forms of recognition in agriculture education. Presented at the Pennsylvania FFA State Convention, the award honors teachers in the state of Pennsylvania who dedicate countless hours to improving the lives of their students. Pennsylvania Secretary of Agriculture Russ Redding described Krista as a natural teacher whose dedication makes a lasting impression on students in our communities. Most certainly, Krista is a source of pride for the entire district. On behalf of everyone in Pennsylvania's 13th Congressional District, I congratulate Krista and look forward to the continuation of her education for the community. Thank you, and I yield.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Connecticut, Mr. Courtney, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, after months and months of President Trump insisting that his tariffs are not paid by Americans, insisting that tariffs don't drive up prices, insisting that there will be no exclusions or exemptions from his Liberation Day tariffs that he imposed back in April. On Friday afternoon, the White House very quietly released a statement that they in fact are exempting and carving out tariffs for a number of goods which were blindingly obvious were going to be costing more because we do not produce any of those goods here in this country. So included in his order is coffee, tea, fruit juices, tropical fruits, spices, bananas, oranges, and tomatoes. And obviously, and you talk to anybody who's been in a grocery store lately, the prices for all of those have gone up by large margins, again, in the wake of the April tariffs that were put into place. Coffee is up 19%, bananas up 7%, oranges and lettuce up 3% and 4%. Again, it was so clear to anyone who actually was connected to the real world that grocery prices are going up, and that we had to take steps to carve out exemptions for the sake of American consumers and our working families and middle class. That it was amazing to see how the president in October was actually giving speeches where he said prices have come way down. We have gotten prices way down for groceries. That's the mentality which is in that White House. And again, these were tariffs that he imposed unilaterally without consulting Congress. And the question, though, is that it's good that, again, there's going to be some price relief for some of these items, which never should have been tariffed to begin with. But it begs the question about, well, what about the rest of the economy that is getting hammered by tariffs? The National Association of Home Builders announced after the tariffs were announced that it would raise the average cost of a new home by $11,000 because of the fact that so many parts and pieces that go into new home construction are imported. That's just a reality in our economy. And when we talk about the cost of living and affordability, if anything is close to maybe groceries, it's the cost of housing in terms of getting rents and new construction restarted. So what about that, Mr. President? Why don't we also look at what is clearly happening in our economy right now and provide relief for the American people who are groaning under the high cost of living? He has to look no further than the Conservative Tax Foundation, which again is a right-of-center economic think tank, whose analysis is that by October, tariffs have raised retail prices on all goods by nearly 5% relative to their pre-tariff trend line. And instead of solving high inflation, the Trump tariffs have continued it and in some instances increased it. This includes a 6% increase for imported goods and 4.3% for domestic goods, because a lot of our domestic goods incorporate items that, again, are imported from overseas. The fundamental problem here is that this president believed in his mind that he himself had the power to impose these tariffs. Let's be very clear. A tariff is a tax on imported goods. It is a tax. I'm from New England. Remember the Boston Tea Party? It was about a tariff on tea that the British government was trying to force the American colonists to pay. So right now, before the U.S. Supreme Court, there was a case, was argued just a couple of weeks ago, where, again, the plaintiffs powerfully stated that the president did not have the authority to impose those taxes back in April. That is an Article 1, Section 9 authority in the Constitution for the Congress. And for the sake of reestablishing the checks and balances in our country, and for the sake of the American economy, where issues like tariffs, which require a lot of analysis and are very complex and require Congress to be part of that decision making. In fact, we are the decision makers according to the Constitution, that those tariffs should be struck down and we should go back to basics, which is that when we deal with tax policy, it is the power of Congress that prevails in terms of making those kinds of decisions. And the harm that's been done to the economy, the harm that's been done to the middle class and working families because of the Trump tariffs that, again, were just unilaterally imposed and indiscriminately imposed against some countries that we actually have trade surpluses with, have to be rolled back. It is, again, an admission on Friday by the administration that their tariff policy has failed, and it's time for Congress to stand up and do its job and rebalance our economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Iowa, Ms. Miller Meeks, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaking of taxes, the tax on the economy and the detriment to the economy of the Democrats' shutdown over the past 6 weeks makes me delighted to be back here in Congress doing the work of Iowa and the American people. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to highlight a critical investment for Iowa families, the $2.78 million in community project funding I secured for the Newton YMCA child care expansion. This funding will allow the Y to open 50 new child care slots, giving working parents in Jasper County the reliability and support they urgently need. Access to child care is not just a family issue, it is a workforce issue. When parents can't find child care, they can't work, which hurts local businesses and the entire economy. The Newton YMCA is a pillar of its community, and this expansion will allow it to serve more families, strengthen the workforce, and keep Newton and Jasper County growing. I'm proud to have secured this funding and will continue fighting for projects that support families and build a stronger future for Iowa's 1st District and Iowa. Mr. Speaker, I rise to highlight the $2 million in community project funding I secured for Jones Regional Medical Center in Maquoketa, Iowa, to build a permanent state-of-the-art medical simulation lab. For the past several years, JRMC has trained nurses out of 2 temporary trailers, and despite those challenges, their program continues to produce highly skilled providers who are urgently needed across Iowa, especially nurses and EMTs. This funding will create a 1,700 square foot advanced simulation center that will allow more students to graduate each year and expand training for high demand medical fields. This investment strengthens Iowa's healthcare workforce, supports our rural hospitals, and ensures communities across Jones County have access to trained, qualified healthcare providers. I'm proud to have secured this funding and remain committed to strengthening healthcare access and workforce training across Iowa. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the $825,000 in community project funding I secured to restore critical healthcare access in Lee County through the Keokuk Area Hospital Project. Since Keokuk lost its hospital in 2022, residents have faced delays in emergency and specialty care. No community should be left without emergency services or forced to travel over an hour for life-saving treatment. This funding will help reopen emergency services and create outpatient specialty care, closing a major gap in healthcare access and restoring the safety net Lee County deserves. The CEO of Insight said that it was pivotal in establishing these services. This is about saving lives, strengthening rural healthcare, and giving families peace of mind. I'm proud to have secured this investment and will continue working to ensure rural Iowans receive the same quality care as any American, no matter their zip code. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Subramaniam, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate the life and legacy of Cheryl Tate Macias Hamby, a devoted public servant, community leader, an example of what it truly means to have a life of service. And whether working in Congress or the executive branch, she approached every challenge with integrity and the belief that public service is about improving the lives of others. And her commitment to service extended far beyond her professional life. In Prince William County and across Virginia, Cheryl was a tireless volunteer and a civic leader through her work with the Rotary Club, the Scouts, and numerous community organizations. Cheryl also served as the chair of the Prince William County Democrats and brought people together, built bridges, and inspired others to lead with heart. Cheryl's legacy and memory will live on through all the lives that she touched and the communities she strengthened. My heart goes out to Cheryl's family. May she rest in peace. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate the life and legacy of J. Hamilton Lambert, a devoted public servant, a steady leader, and a Virginian who made a lasting difference. Through his many years of service, J. Lambert focused on making local government work better for the people it serves, and his service continued long after his government career. Through his work with the Claude Moore Charitable Foundation, he helped create opportunities for young people, especially those training for careers in medical fields. And thousands of students have benefited from programs he helped grow, giving them the skills they need to build a brighter future. He carried himself with humility, sharp insight, and a quick sense of humor, and he always put the people around him first. And Mr. Speaker, his legacy will live on in the people he helped and the programs he strengthened and the communities across Virginia and especially in Loudoun County that are better because of his service. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate the Brentsville High School girls flag football team on winning the inaugural flag football championship. This fall marked the first year for girls flag football as a club sport in Prince William County, and the girls flag football team was part of a growing trend. It's one of the fastest growing sports in the country. 12 Prince William High School teams competed in an 8-game season and a postseason tournament. And on Saturday, Brentsville defeated Patriot High School 15-6, completing a perfect 11-0 season. This victory for Brentsville High School reflects their teamwork and determination, and they are really good. I actually checked out some of their highlights on YouTube. I encourage everyone to go to a game next year. Congratulations to the girls and Coach Baltimore on your undefeated season. You have made Brentsville and an entire community proud. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to speak about a critical moment of hope and opportunity for the Syrian people. For the past decade, Syrians have experienced civil war, mass destruction, hundreds of thousands of deaths, and millions of displacements. But with the fall of the Assad regime and the transition to a new administration, today we have a window of opportunity to support the Syrian people as they seek to achieve a free and democratic future. A future defined by economic stability, a future strengthened by robust infrastructure, and a future fueled by thriving business and free from repression. I'm proud to support legislation that offers sanctions relief for Syria, opening the door to new investments from partners around the world. And it is my hope that together we can turn this moment into a brighter future for the Syrian people and for Syrian Americans. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate the Light Ridge High School Marching Band for being invited to march in the 2027 London Parade. This is a huge honor. This is a really big deal, and they were actually the first to be announced as being a part of that parade of all the high schools, and they are really good, actually. I had a chance to hear them perform live and be there when they were awarded this honor. They even played Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters. My kids listened to that on repeat, and so I appreciate them doing that, and I appreciate them representing our community so well. Congratulations to Director Dan Adams and the entire Light Ridge community, and good luck in 2027. I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Self, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize 22 of our nation's finest veterans. These individuals are exceptional American heroes who demonstrated selfless commitment to serving our nation and their communities. This is a moment to acknowledge those who have sacrificed much and devoted all to safeguard our country. This year, Texas 3rd District is saluting brave veterans who have exhibited remarkable service, leadership, integrity, and dedication. These veterans represent true role models within our community, deserving our utmost respect, acknowledgement, and honor. The veterans from Texas 3rd Congressional District receiving the 2025 Veteran Commendation Award are as follows. Sergeant Christopher Acevedo, U.S. Army. Captain Travis Mills, U.S. Army. Major Gary Billings, U.S. Marine Corps. Second Lieutenant Charles Newbecker, U.S. Army. Master Sergeant Fernando Cruz Jr., U.S. Marine Corps. Senior Chief Petty Officer Vincent Riggs, U.S. Navy. Senior Airman David Davis, U.S. Air Force. Major Philip Shortino, U.S. Army. Staff Sergeant David Dubé, U.S. Air Force. Senior Airman Danny Stasik, U.S. Air Force. Staff Sergeant Robert Dubé, U.S. Air Force. Sergeant Willie Frank Stevenson, U.S. Army. Master Sergeant Patrick Irvin, U.S. Air Force. Captain Ian Sullivan, U.S. Marine Corps. Sergeant Ayman Hatqua, U.S. Army. Colonel Dick Thompson, Jr., U.S. Air Force. Sergeant Paul David Hoke, U.S. Army. Chief Petty Officer Michael Thompson, Jr., U.S. Navy. Petty Officer Second Class James Johnson, U.S. Navy. Lance Corporal Frank Walker, Jr., U.S. Marine Corps. Command Master Chief Petty Officer Robert Jordan, U.S. Navy. Gunnery Sergeant Nick Mendoza, Jr., U.S. Marine Corps. To these 22 veterans, I salute you, God bless you, and God bless America. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor Captain Carol Young McGibbon, a distinguished graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point. Commissioned into the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in 1980 as part of the historic first class of female graduates, Captain McGibbon served our nation with distinction in leadership positions in Germany and beyond. Following her active duty service, Mrs. McGibbon dedicated 22 years to mentoring future Army leaders, assisting over 165 candidates in earning admission to West Point. Since 2003, Captain McGibbon has been a West Point admissions representative, and since 2006, the Congressional District Coordinator for Texas 3rd Congressional District. In that capacity, she served as the West Point Liaison Officer for 3 successive members of Congress, beginning with Congressman Sam Johnson from 2006 to 2018. Recognized by peers and leaders alike, Mrs. McGibbon received the Congressional Veteran Commendation Award from Congressman Sam Johnson in 2017, and the Ray Colvin Service Award from the West Point Society of North Texas in 2023. Captain McGibbon's legacy of service reaches well beyond her professional achievements. She met her late husband, Kevin Vance McGibbon, while they were classmates at the United States Military Academy, and they married in October of 1981 after graduation. Captain Kevin McGibbon served as an infantry officer in the U.S. Army stationed in Germany during the Cold War from 1980 to 1985, earning his Ranger Tab and Airborne Wings. Together, they raised 3 children who continue the proud tradition of military service, including officers and graduates of West Point and the U.S. Air Force. The Army Lacrosse Endowment stands as a testament to the enduring commitment of Carol and Kevin McGibbon to the values of West Point and the U.S. Army. Carol McGibbon's dedication to West Point and to our nation embodies the highest ideals of duty, honor, country. Therefore, I honor Captain Carol McGibbon for her lifetime of service to the United States, to West Point, and to the countless young men and women whose lives she has helped shape. And we extend our gratitude and best wishes upon her retirement as Academy Liaison Officer for West Point. The enduring legacy Captain Carol McGibbon leaves at West Point stands as a beacon for those who aspire to lead and serve, ensuring the Academy's proud tradition endures for generations to come. May God bless Captain Carol McGibbon. May God bless the United States of America. I yield back the balance of my time.
The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from New Mexico, Ms. Stansberry, for 5 minutes.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would love to just say welcome back to the House of Representatives. This is our first full week back after the shutdown and the 54 days of lockout that we experienced here in this chamber after a completely wasteful, avoidable, and painful shutdown that not only harmed families, workers in our communities, but cost our country billions of dollars. It did not result ultimately in the fight to end the attacks on our healthcare. And so rather than coming back this week after our shutdown, the longest shutdown in history, to address the real issues that were at the heart of this debate, lowering healthcare costs, addressing the healthcare cliff, addressing the cost of food, addressing the cost of housing, what are we doing here this week? Attacking our public lands and opening them up for oil and gas drilling. This week, our colleagues across the aisle, fresh from their multi-week vacation, have come with a whole slew of special asks by special interests from the oil and gas industry. We have HJ Res 130, the Congressional Review Act to reverse a resource management plan that was developed with tribal consultation and public benefit to open the door to coal development in an area where communities have been abundantly clear that they do not want these attacks on these public lands because of the threats it poses to climate change, to public health, and to their future. Why are they ignoring what these communities have already said? And yet here we are voting on legislation this week that would repeal community-based strategies to protect our public lands. All three of the CRA measures that are scheduled to be voted on this week are literally put forward to open some of our nation's most sacred and treasured places. This includes opening protected areas in the Arctic that are not only important to protect for ecological, for wildlife, but for cultural reasons. Areas that our colleagues know tribal communities have fought for generations to protect. Areas that our colleagues know are sensitive. Areas that we know during the first Trump administration, when they tried to sell them off to the lowest bidder, the oil and gas industry didn't even want to drill there. And yet here they are trying to reverse the protections that have been put in place to protect not only these important lands in the Arctic, but these sacred lands. Mr. Speaker, these bills not only impact these lands, but are part of a larger pattern that we see in this administration, revoking previous protections that have been put in place to respect not only the ecological importance of lands, but also sacred places. In fact, during the shutdown, tribes in my district received notice that the administration was considering repealing the protections for Chaco Canyon. Mr. Speaker, I want you to understand what Chaco Canyon is. It is a global World Heritage Site, but it is a sacred site. It is a place for generations Pueblo and Diné Navajo people have come to pray. It is a place where on a cold morning, standing on top of the mesa overlooking Pueblo Bonito, you can see the ancient cities, kivas, and sacred sites, not just below, but that stretch out across a landscape as far as you can see, where you can walk in the footsteps of people who built these structures, and you understand why it is sacred. It is the ancestral homeland of the Pueblo people. It is a place where today religious leaders and community leaders continue to come for their religious practices. And it is a place that we have fought to protect for generations. And yet, in the middle of the longest government shutdown, as tribes could not even get basic programs and services to operate, could not figure out if their grants and their programs were able to continue to operate, could not get access to lands that were important to them. This administration had the gall to send a
Your time has
letter
expired.
to our tribes saying that they were going to revoke protections. So I am here to say we will fight back and we will defeat this effort. I yield back.
Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the chair declares the House in recess until 2 p.m. today.
What's good, everybody? Listen, it was not my intention to disturb you all on this lovely Friday as we head into the weekend and get our lives together after what has been probably a trying week for most people, what has been an exhaustive week for most people. And I'm just talking about real life. I'm not even addressing what's in the news cycle right now, though we'll get to that in a moment. So I had to call this emergency session, this Emergencies Politics Live, because the news that have come across our feeds in the last 24 to 36 hours, I'm going to just give it that much. Even for today's climate, this has been a little much. This has been a lot to handle. And I'll just say there were 3 or 4 stories in particular that once they reached the atmosphere, I had to say, that's just enough internet for today. That's just enough. I had to go in a prayer closet because there is only so much the brain can process in our current political atmosphere. There's only so much. And before I sort of get into it real quick, let me just remind you guys that are joining me now. Thank you for joining me on this Friday. Hopefully y'all somewhere kicking back. You're at home, you relaxing. Hopefully you got a nice little drink you done poured. Hell, I should have got one just to even have this conversation. And thank you for your, liking, subscribing, and a reminder, you see it right there at the bottom of your screen. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already on the way out. I really appreciate the support. But what we have had to experience in our psychosis these last, again, 24 to 36 hours, what are we doing, y'all? What are we doing? Let me just get right into it. Okay, so as you all know, the Epstein estate released or leaked some emails to the Democratic Party about Jeffrey Epstein and the Epstein files. And let me just say before we get into this, is like, this is a very serious case that has, victims, that has caused deep, deep trauma. So, this is very serious business. We're talking about child trafficking, pedophilia, some of the worst crimes that can be committed against anybody. But then the story, of course, took a turn. It took a turn because in this vat of emails, there's like 20,000 pages of these documents that people are pouring through. And I ain't gonna lie, I ain't had that kind of time to be going through some 20,000 emails. But naturally, everybody focused on one particular email exchange that was between Mark Epstein and I don't remember all the characters. And so it frankly, it just wasn't on the bingo card of things I thought would be put out there as it relates to this case and this estate and these files. So let's just go ahead and get into it. No need to give any more of a filibuster than I already have. So that wasn't the email. Sorry, y'all. Here is the email. Now, maybe you all can't see on your screen right there what that email says. But this, as I said, is an email that has Jeffrey Epstein and also Mark Epstein. And they're going back and forth. And in the middle of this exchange, what I have circled, they're referencing Donald Trump. And Mark Epstein emails, or Jeffrey, is this Mark? Yeah, I think it's Mark. I'm reading this as well. I think it's Mark Epstein emails and says to Jeffrey Epstein, subject matter Donald Trump, ask him if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing Bubba. Now, I don't know who Bubba is. I mean, I know who people think they know who Bubba is. But, you know, I did not expect this story to take on the life that it is taking on. Now, let me just say let's get the journalism out of the way. Is we do not know. There have been some reports about who Bubba is, right? But we don't know the identity of Bubba. We don't know. This is all allegations, allegedly. This is what this is, all right? Allegedly. But naturally, the internet gonna internet, and they gonna internet all day long. And so the internet, which knows that there is a former president by the name of William Jefferson Clinton, who also goes by the nickname of Bubba. And so now you have the internet run amok because people are saying, or Streets is talking, and Streets is saying that, yes, that is Bill Clinton that they're referring to. And next thing you know, it's open season on the Donald Trump and Bill Clinton jokes. And I'm not going to laugh because deep down, I'm a child. And, you know, there are some of them that have been quite funny. And it just reminds me of the fact that we can't take shit serious. Nothing can be taken serious, okay? And especially as it relates to Black people, who I am convinced have the best sense of humor on earth, all right? And true to form, a lot of people, Black, white, whoever, have run away with this. So let's get to how, because naturally when something like this hits the atmosphere, naturally the internet handles this also responsibly, as they often do. But you know damn well that they didn't. Exhibit A. I'm going to drain the swamp, Bill Clinton. I mean, guys, can we, what are we, I can't. Then we have, and this, you know, I spend a lot of time on Threads now. Don't fool with X as much for obvious reasons. This is on Threads. If Clinton got impeached for, you can read that there, can Trump get impeached for giving it? Internet, I need you to go to your room. You're not allowed to have dinner. No TV, no video games. You on punishment. You on punishment for at least, you know what? We ain't gonna even have a punishment end date. You just on punishment right now. It's like probably one of the, I didn't save it or, you know, put it up for you all, but you guys can find it. Why y'all do they have a picture of Donald Trump with Nancy Reagan talking about two goats? Why are they referring to Donald Trump as the throatus, goatus, POTUS? Y'all ain't got no sense. Y'all play too much. That's y'all problem. Y'all play too much. I mean, that's why I was in the prayer closet dealing with y'all. Here at this. This was on my Threads account. My 17-year-old came home from school today and asked me if Trump gave Clinton a blowy, and I was wholly unprepared for that. Well, ma'am, Cindy, I have been unprepared of all the things that I have seen on the internet as related to this story, to this allegation, to this rumor. Let me be very clear. I mean, every time I try to get out, to quote Al Pacino, y'all pull me back in. I'm not supposed to be here talking about this on a Friday. Not at all. This is not supposed to be my life. But I just had to bring it to the community to know that, is this where we are right now? Is this where we are? They got, it's the names. Throatus, Gotus, POTUS. Like, y'all out here really calling the 47th president the throat goat. Y'all really doing this right now. Y'all got the meme with, y'all replace Brandy and the boy is mine. And y'all done put Donald and Hillary and put Bill Clinton in the middle. Y'all are some children. Y'all are some children. Talking about they gonna expect Bill Clinton to hold a press conference talking about I ain't had sexual relationship or sexual relations with that man, Donald J. Trump, and then he gonna weaken the camera. I saw that one too. I done seen it all. What? But you know, I thought about this, and to take it slightly serious for a moment, is that like, we know right now is a stressful time for a lot of people. And we are inundated every dang on day with catastrophic news all the time. The country is completely on fire. It is on fire. And so because of that, we are grasping for moments of levity that we can remind ourselves that we are not in a never-ending shit show. But never in my wildest dreams did I expect, as we search for these moments of levity and even search for these moments of community, I never expected this to take the turn that it is taken. It is like, I'm just sitting here blinking rapidly, like the man in the meme, like, yeah. But I get it, because every day that we are reminded that we really in the matrix. I'm not sure which pill we took, the red one or the blue one, but we living in the matrix. That's the only thing that I can determine. Now, you know, I can't even say that was in the last 24 to 36 hours, that was the most salacious thing to learn or to be alleged against someone in a world leadership position. Because then there was this particular story that, I mean, another one where I just had to take the deepest of Negro sighs and just evaluate just where we are as humanity. Like, where are we right now? What just checking in with everybody and just to say, like, what is going on? What's our mentals like? It was this story. Newsweek. Hitler had sexual disorder, DNA analysis reveals. All right, so already I was bracing myself, like, I don't know where this is going. And then I read the story. Okay, I'm gonna just scroll through it real quick, read you guys the opening couple paragraphs. A new DNA analysis has shed light on Adolf Hitler's medical history, indicating that the dictator may have suffered from a sexual disorder linked to hormonal irregularities. The findings are the focus of a forthcoming Channel 4 documentary, Hitler's DNA, Blueprint of a Dictator, which reports that genetic evidence points to Hitler having Kalman syndrome. I'm assuming that's what it was called. All right. Kalman syndrome. Never heard of it. So I keep scrolling. All right. It comes after a medical report from 1923 unearthed in 2015 confirmed that Hitler had an undescended testicle. Again, information I could have gone my whole life never having known. Never. All right. According to researchers, continuing this scroll, his newly identified genetic condition would likely have disrupted normal testosterone production, potentially contributing to sexual underdevelopment. Scientists estimate that this could have given him about a 1 in 10 chance of having a micro penis. An idea consistent with accounts from World War I, suggesting he was ridiculed over the size of his genitals. Again, I could have gone my whole life not knowing that. So the reason that Hitler, maybe it's not the sole reason, like clearly he was a bigot, he was an awful person, but you mean to tell me that he persecuted and murdered millions of people because that man had one of these? So the world had to pay because you out here living style. I mean, you're not supposed to necessarily pray in this way, but really, God, you couldn't have just gave him a couple inches, so maybe the whole world doesn't suffer. Just maybe give him a solid 5. A solid 5. And perhaps millions of lives are spared. Now, of course, a lot of people, because people look at dictators and they always say that dictators and who are, men in these powerful positions and they behave terribly, that it is a result of an inadequacy in some department, be it height, apparently be it package size, apparently, a lot of people link certain male aggressive and violent behavior to those things. And so to find out and to read that, the Adolf Hitler, that was his reality. Again, I could have gone my whole life. That was involuntary knowledge I didn't really need to have in my brain. It's just, did we need to know that? Science, because science. And now there's a whole documentary that'll be coming out soon about his entire, genetic and DNA profile. So we find out he got a little chubbo. And millions had to die because he had a little chubbo. That's where we are. I don't even know what to do with that information. See, y'all got jokes in the chat. How are you processing this information between throat goatus and now peenie weenie? If you're a history teacher right now, I need to know what is going on in your mind. How will you explain this time that we are living in? I gotta go. I just gotta know. How will you explain to the young people this information? Put this entire time in context. There's just no words. There are just no words. And on this Friday, as I said, it was it was not my intention to disrupt your Friday with these goings on, but nevertheless, we're here. And then there was one more I had to throw in the mix, and this one is a little bit of a different tone than the two previous stories I just talked about. Now, y'all remember that it wasn't too long ago that the commentator Megyn Kelly had a lot to say about me because she did not like the commentary that I had about Charlie Kirk. So, in case you forgot what Megyn Kelly said about me, this is maybe a month ago, month and some change. Charlie's murder, there was an incredible amount of angry discourse from the right, blaming the Democrats, blaming liberals, saying, you're the reason this happened. Only to find out, surprise, 22-year-old white dude, love guns, raised by two parents, lived in a good home, dad is a minister, also a sheriff. Didn't check any of them boxes y'all thought he would check, did he?
Okay. First of all, a coat of mascara would be your friend. I'm just going to tell this to you, woman to woman on television. You need a little work, and you should have them back off the camera a little bit because you are not attractive enough to have that extreme close up. Push away your laptop, Jemele, and add a filter or two. Honestly, like, we actually don't use any on this show because I do put on makeup so I look presentable, but you need work because you can't both be ugly on the outside and the inside. You need to choose one.
Oh, you can't be both ugly on the outside and in the inside because you need to choose one. Well, you know, you guys, if you follow me and you can go back and reference it, I had some very strong words about Megyn Kelly. I've been called a lot of things. Ugly is not one of them. But it was interesting because she said that I was ugly inside and out, meaning that she's coming from my character, saying I'm a terrible person and all that, right? I'm a lot of things. I'm not perfect. I certainly have made my share of mistakes. I've made plenty of them. Okay. I try as best I can to be a person with character and integrity and all those things that matter. And again, I said I'm not perfect. But you know what? Of all the things on my shortcomings, on my worst days that I've had, you know what I've never done? Is I have never said something like this, which Megyn Kelly said on her show the other day.
Them or having paid for sex with them when they were barely legal or otherwise. It just hasn't happened.
Yeah, in fact, at that same press conference, the lawyer for a group of the women actually said Jeffrey Epstein would prey upon women when they were underage, true and disgusting and horrible. And then the lawyer said, and when they came of age and he was no longer interested in them, he would then pass them on. So there was no pedophilia ring. There was a pedophile who did unspeakable things to vulnerable girls. And then they would age out of Jeffrey Epstein's pedophilic interests, at which point he...
When did you start getting women caping for men who prey on young women? I ain't seen one female yet other than these two ragamuffins who done came out and tried to cape for these men. These are the only two ragamuffins that done been out trying to cape for some diddlers. Out here caping for diddlers. Females caping for diddlers. This is a shame. And Megyn Kelly is the worst variety. She, you know what I really think about her? I think she's a bombastic shit starter who don't believe half the shit she say. She's out here grifting. Like most people, but she's really grifting. She's a grifter. I can tell when she speaks, when she's lying and when she don't believe half the bullshit she say. She's always out here lying. She's one of those people. One of those people who see the money and knows that she got stupid people on the Republican side that believe everything she say. So as long as they believe everything she say and everything she want to put out of her mouth, she on the same level as Candace Owens, except Candace Owens is a little bit better. This girl, you could tell when she lying. And she out here caping for males who diddle little girl. And she got a 14-year-old girl. She got a 14-year-old daughter. This is a damn shame. She out here caping for diddlers.
He would then start to pass them around to his friends, meaning that there were not actual crimes committed by anybody beyond. There's no pedophile ring. There's a pedophile and then a bunch of friends who were getting massages at that point from women who were no longer underage. This is from the lawyer at that press conference. So I think that that kind of dispels a lot of the like salaciousness of the story. People are like, where is the justice for the victims? The justice is one of the people who did unspeakable things to them died in prison, and the other one is still in prison. So like they got their justice. And the whole ring idea, I think, has been wildly blown out of proportion for these political reasons.
I don't know about ring.
Now they trying to justify it not being no ring. We know it's a male ring. We know from the emails that it's a male ring.
Now, if you find yourself arguing on behalf or in defense of pedophilia, you might need to check. You might need to, as they say, you need to go see that lady. You need to go see that lady, Megyn Kelly. You have a 14-year-old daughter, and you really sat up there and said it with your whole chest that, 8-year-olds, that's a different kind of sexual abuse than somebody who's 14 or 15. I'm sorry, what? They're sliding scales of pedophilia. They're not all victims. And Batia, who I actually know a little bit, I don't profess to know her well. That is the woman who was talking about they got their justice. As if there's an end date on people who have been traumatized by this sort of thing, as if there's an end date to their pain. All right. And Batia, I know a little bit because I've done a couple of CNN panels with her, and it's just disappointing to see the callousness in which they would sort of belittle what these victims have gone through. Jeffrey Epstein is no longer alive, and that is what it is. And there's obviously been a ton of speculation about, the manner in which he died, and given the level of information that he had on some very powerful people, people have often speculated that death, it was considered a suicide, doesn't quite pass the smell test. And his co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, she is in prison, but she's also in a very cushy prison thanks to Donald Trump's Justice Department, which strangely gave her, when her legal team let it be known that she was willing to talk and share what she knew, which was a bat signal for, I'm going to tell you what I know about you and what I got on you, and let's see how we can negotiate and you can make my life easier. And she is now, instead of being in harsher conditions, she is now basically in the Ritz-Carlton of Fed prison, thanks to Donald Trump. And one has to ask themselves, putting all these dots together, if Donald Trump is truly as innocent as he says, he is surely behaving like a guilty man, because he has said today that he wants Attorney General Pam Bondi to investigate Bill Clinton, who we just talked about. He wants him to investigate Bill Clinton and a bunch of other names, because he's trying to shift the focus off him, because in these emails, Donald Trump is all over the place. And we've seen enough pictures that are not doctored to know that him and Jeffrey Epstein was friends. Now, naturally, being friends with somebody, even when they do really messed up things, does not mean that you were someone who was in on the plot. But can anybody say, would anybody bet a paycheck, a 401k, a pinky toe on Donald Trump not being involved deeper in the Epstein situation than what he has let on? Any of y'all willing to put it on the line? Hell no. Especially with somebody who has numerous examples of being a chronic liar, who's also a convicted felon.
Nobody's going to believe that Donald Trump didn't have something to do with it. Nobody's going to believe that Donald Trump didn't know what was going on. Even if you weren't involved, you knew what was going on. That's the minimum. The minimum is you knew what was going on. And yet you were the president and you continue to allow it happening. He was your friend, so you allowed your friend to keep diddling with girls. You knew what was happening. It says that you knew. The email said that you knew what was going on. They were taking girls from your Mar-a-Lago. So you knew what was going on. Even if I'll grant you the best case scenario. He knew what was going on and he allowed it to happen. He knew what was going on and he allowed them to do it in front of his face. He allowed them to do it at Mar-a-Lago. He allowed them to come there and get women from Mar-a-Lago. Once he realized that they were taking them from Mar-a-Lago, he said, oh, okay, don't do that. But you still were aware of what they were doing. That's the best case scenario that could come out of it. But we all know that's a lie because in those emails, Epstein says you're one of the worst. You're one of the worst. Said Donald Trump was one of the worst in the email.
I add you. And so getting back to this discussion that Megyn Kelly and Batia, who is a personality, a host, I believe, on News Nation, I think it is. So getting back to their discussion and what you're going to see now, and you've probably seen it as there's been more and more leaked information about these Epstein files, is that the goalpost is going to start moving. You know, Kash Patel, who prior to becoming the director of FBI, this pains me to even say this, he was a social media influencer, a right-wing conservative social influencer, and now he's leading the FBI. How convenient that suddenly when he becomes Mr. FBI, then he just says, oh, you know what? There was no conspiracy. Jeffrey Epstein completely died by exactly what they said. Nothing to see here, folks. Move along. But see, now the jig is up. And I think people on both sides of the aisle realize that this ain't passing no smell test, no smoke test, nothing. There's way too much smoke here. They know it's a fire. So these efforts by right-wing media, by Donald Trump and his administration to start moving the goalposts is not going to work. The people can see you. You playing in their face and they know it. J.D. Vance, who was Mr. Release the Files, is suddenly like, well, see what had happened was that should be on the slant. That's suddenly J.D. Vance all of a sudden when it comes to the Epstein files. And so it is not surprising that now the conversation has become, oh, but the victims got their justice. Oh, but an 8-year-old versus a 15-year-old? I mean, that's what we are right now, where we're having discussions about sliding scales of pedophilia. And in case people don't need to, in case people need to know this, 15 is still underage. Megyn Kelly talking about barely legal girls. No, there's no barely legal. They're not legal. There's a lot of states, and even if they were, in a lot of states, 16 is the age of consent. 16 ain't right, though. Right? And so all of these people sitting up here trying to justify or minimize what has happened in a cover-up that we're seeing in real time really ought to be ashamed of themselves. Actually, the problem is that language doesn't even do it enough justice, because that's part of the problem, is that they're not ashamed of themselves, which is why they keep saying the dumb shit that they do. And so, again, as it relates to Megyn Kelly, is whatever person she may think that I am, she don't even know me, and I certainly don't know her. But I do know you ain't gonna see me on nobody's airwaves, and certainly not on anything with my name on it, trying to debate the scales of pedophilia. If we are not a country that can't all agree that pedophilia is wrong, then what are we doing? There's certain lines in the sand and boundaries we all got to be like, you know what? We all agree that is egregious and wrong and horrible. But she, can't really find it in herself to do that. And I just don't know personally how and she, she's trying to hide behind the fact that somebody within the administration or somebody that she knows that is close to the situation said, well, oh, it wasn't really this, it was this. Like, why would you even repeat that on air to try to justify and minimize what this situation is? Like, what? It's just got to be certain lines of decency that we should all be against. And I shouldn't be surprised, because I would expect a piece of shit person to say shitty things, and that's Megyn Kelly. But remember, I'm the ugly one, inside and out. Remember that. So yeah, I just felt like I needed a little emergency community right quick. So I thank you all for joining me here on this emergency edition of
This executive order, fostering the future for American children and families, gives me tremendous pride. It is both empathetic and strategic. It aims to establish a comprehensive network connecting federal departments and agencies, private sectors, businesses, higher.
Hey y'all, how is somebody that's a felon married to a immigrant gonna tell a felon and an immigrant that they can't come into the country? How is somebody who is a felon married to an immigrant gonna tell other people who are felons and immigrants that they can't come into the country? Make this shit make sense.
Their learning institutions and charitable organizations. A special thank you to my husband for his enduring commitment to fostering the future. The President has prioritized America's foster care children. This small spark today will ignite a profound and lasting nationwide movement. Our united resolve will foster a thriving future filled with compassion and innovation. Together, we will illuminate the pathway for today's foster children to become tomorrow's builders. And tomorrow's builders will foster the future of America's legacy. Thank you.
Oh, sorry about that, y'all. Sorry. The files probably won't be released. 9 times out of 10, they won't be released. Why? Because there's an old stunt that they pull. The administration is going to pull. Files are under investigation, and they're going to make it seem as though they're under investigation, called FOIA, something called FOIA. And they're going to say, oh, the files are under investigation, so therefore nobody can get them. You notice how they want to put all the Democrats' names in the middle of the files. It doesn't matter whose name is in the file. If they put all the files under investigation, nothing can be released. They can go under that. They can go under that umbrella, and you could take them to court to release it, but they won't. I guarantee you, a bulk of a whole bunch of those Democrats or those Republicans are going to vote for the files to be released. All of them going to vote for them to be released, but they ain't going to be released because Donald Trump and Pam Bondi got a script going. They going to release them when they feel like it, but maybe they may be redacted. Maybe a whole bunch of them might be X, Y, and Z, stuff scrapped out, names scrapped out. No, Trump is in the files. He's in the files. Even the email. These are emails that were released last week. Emails, not the files. Emails that the Epstein estate released. So we're just waiting on the regular files to be released. They're going to try to hold that over our head. But see, I know how the Republicans are going to keep cover. They're going to act like they have cover just by Trump saying, "Oh, I got all of this stuff on the investigation," and then that's how they're gonna keep them closed from everybody. And then we all gonna be sitting here wondering why the hell we can't find the files. Why can't we do X, Y, and Z? It just is what it is. They're not gonna let us see the files. It just is what it is. They're not gonna let us see the files. The emails are fine. Everything is fine, except the support is not. The support is going to be. It's a cover up. They're going to cover everything up. That's our problem. They're going to cover everything up. Okay. I don't expect to have a lot. I expect what we got from the file, the emails. I expect all of that information from the emails. The files is a different story. The files is just a different story. They are not going to allow those files to come out. It's just too much. It's too much for them to want. For them to let it be released. They can't do it. They can't do it because if they do it, it's going to be hell to pay, and then we're gonna have to face what is it called? We're gonna have to face an impeachment. We're gonna have to face an impeachment. It is what it is. Hold on. I got something else to show you. Hold on. I got something else to show you. These people that work with Donald Trump, these people gonna go to prison. These people are gonna go to prison right here. And that's the sad part.
Quite a scoop about Trump DHS Secretary Kristi Noem that in any other era, I should say, would be a career-ending scandal. But to understand the pattern of corruption of this woman, we just have to
see, these people don't understand it. These people don't understand. Trump has immunity. Trump has immunity in the White House. They don't have immunity in the White House. Trump has immunity in the White House. All of these scandals, all of these talks, all of these all this stuff has been to cover up Donald Trump in the Epstein files. All of this has been to cover up what's been happening in the Epstein file. None of this other shit has meant a thing. None of this has meant a thing. Okay? It has all been to cover up what's in those files. I just want to know what the hell is in the files about Donald Trump that is so bad that he don't want to come out. What could be in them files that was so bad that he don't want to come out? But it's something in those files that's bad enough about him that he don't want it to come out. But here's the thing. All these damn people that work around him, they think they immune to this shit. Y'all ain't immune to none of this. I got to play my favorite clip. This is my favorite clip, y'all.
The midterms, and we lose 2028. Some in this room are going to prison, myself included.
Y'all hear what he said? This is the Bannon. This is the Bannon.
We lose the midterms, and we lose 2028. Some in this room are going to prison, myself included.
Why would he be saying that? Because he understands that this administration is corrupt. He understands that.
We lose the midterms and we lose 2028. Some in this room are going to prison, myself included.
If you lose it, it ain't, it's not nothing. You can believe it's not nothing. It's something, all right. Whatever's in the files is bad enough. It's something, all right.
just for a moment. Because since Noem took over DHS at the beginning of the year, she's become known for appearing to be more obsessed with putting on various costumes than doing her actual job. I mean, she donned a bulletproof vest just to talk to her own agents. She wore a Customs and Border Protection.
They never said anything about him in the Epstein files in the last administration. They never said anything about the Epstein files in the last administration. Not one thing. Why? Because it was under investigation. They put out the memo saying it was under investigation. That's why it wasn't released within the White House from Biden's term, because it was under investigation. And two, Biden didn't want to, after that January 6th, Biden didn't want his presidency to be bogged down by investigations and fights and all that other stuff. That's why what's name didn't investigate him early enough. That's why, because they didn't want to have a fight. Hold on. Hold on.
Patrol uniform on Fox News. And of course, she is constantly, and I mean constantly, throwing on a cowboy hat and riding horses, always with plenty of cameras around to capture the moment. But Noem's apparent obsession with image actually goes much further than just putting on costumes, because she has directed more than 200 million taxpayer dollars into TV ads to promote her work at DHS. And just to put it in context, that is nearly twice what DHS spent on ads altogether in all of last year. And the content of those ads have already been a scandal kind of in and of themselves.
I'm Kristi Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. Thank you, President Donald J. Trump, for securing our border.
And if you're wondering who exactly the target audience is for that, DHS spent $30,000 to run that ad, the one I just showed you, specifically in the ad market where Mar-a-Lago is. Now, as much as spending tens of thousands of dollars to make sure your ad plays on the TV near the president is a bizarre waste of taxpayer money, $30,000, it turns out, is a drop in the bucket compared to the more than $200 million DHS has spent this year making and airing ads. And the rest of that money is where the story gets truly bonkers. I mean, since March.
This is why she got dragged over the coals by the one senator last week. That's why she got dragged over the coals, because she outspends her budget. This young lady has outspent her budget every chance she got, and she will be going to prison if they decide to put her there.
We have known that DHS skipped the normal competitive bidding process when giving out the contracts to make and air these ads. DHS claimed that because Trump declared an emergency at the southern border, they didn't have to waste time getting competitive bids.
This paperwork that has been released, these are not files. All of the stuff that you all see coming out are not files. Those are not the files. Those are emails directly from the Epstein estate. These are emails directly from the Epstein estate. All of the things you see on TV of them bringing notes and whatnot, Bubba smoking, popping Bubba, and all this, that, and the third, and admitting that Trump knew about everything. Those are emails from Epstein's estate. Those are not the files. The files have not been released. The files have to be voted on in order to be released. Black America. These are Epstein's. These are his. This is the criminal's personal emails about Trump. These are things that he wrote about Trump. So we got those. They got these things directly from the people in his family. They passed these things along to the Congress. Okay. The Epstein files and Epstein emails. Epstein emails are personal, directly from Epstein and Epstein's family, given to the Congress. Congress wrote to them and asked for the email, any kind of correspondence that you had, and Congress gave Congress whatever they wanted to. They gave Congress all the emails that were relevant to them. They gave them all the emails. The files are the things that the DOJ and the FBI and all of them have. Those files contain videotapes and audio tapes. Those are the most devastating things right there. The tapes, the files are the devastating thing because they have videotape and they have audio tape. And Epstein taped all of his rooms and his bedrooms and his office. He had tapes of everything. He has tapes of every one, of everything. Those are the things we want released. Those are the things that we want released.
And that brings me to the first part of ProPublica's big scoop today. Because it turns out that the majority of that no bid contract money, 143 million taxpayer dollars, went to this kind of mysterious LLC in Delaware. An LLC that was created just days before it got that no bid contract, just days. And the man who owns the home that LLC lists as its address did not respond to ProPublica's questions. Now, when asked why the agency chose that LLC, DHS said, quote, "The results speak for themselves," and then proceeded to claim that Trump has made the border the most secure it has been in American history. Not exactly answering the question. So DHS gave a $143 million no bid contract to a brand new LLC that no one seems to know anything about. That is obviously a scandal enough to begin with. Then there's this. This is an ad Kristi Noem shot on October 2nd, which, by the way, was the second day of the government shutdown. So while hundreds of thousands of federal workers went without pay, including the nearly 50,000 TSA workers that work under Noem, Noem donned a cowboy hat and had a production company film her riding horseback with buffalo. And whether or not you care about the very weird content of the ad, you should care about who made it. Because according to ProPublica's new reporting, that ad was made by a company called Strategy Group, which is run by a man who is not only the husband of Noem's chief DHS spokesperson, Tricia McLaughlin, yes, she's a something, but also has personal and business ties to Noem herself. And the company's name, Strategy Group, does not appear on any of the public documents about the contract. Instead, the group listed on the contract is the mysterious Delaware LLC that DHS gave that $143 million contract to. I should say that DHS said in a statement to ProPublica that it does all of its contracting by the book. Okay. But the office in charge of funding ad contracts at
Y'all notice that you ain't heard nothing from J.D. Vance in the past week, y'all, right? You notice that you haven't heard not one thing from J.D. Vance in the past week. He's standing back, waiting for the shit to hit Trump so that he can step in. Nobody wants you for no president neither. Y'all notice that you ain't heard nothing from J.D. Vance. I ain't seen him on TV. I ain't heard him say nothing. He been standing back there in the corner waiting to see if this is going to take Trump down because he's trying to take his place. Of course he is. The tramp is trying to take his place. You ain't heard one thing. Not one thing.
DHS is the Office of Public Affairs.
Yeah, Don Bongino neither. Ain't heard from him at all since he blew up on the first thing. I believe he blew up because he knew there was shit in the file, and then they told him he better shut his ass up, and then he set his ass down. That's what I believe.
Which is run by none other than DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin. And when she was asked about why DHS ended up using her husband's company, Strategy Group, to make that ad, she replied with this.
That's bullshit, Black America.
We don't have visibility into why they were.
They ain't never stopped that motherfucker from jumping in front of that Charlie Kirk shit. Ain't stopped his ass from jumping in front of nothing before. But today, this week, he ain't jumped in the front. He ain't jumped out there at all. Hell no.
Chosen. I don't know who they're a subcontractor with, but I don't work with them because I have a conflict of interest and I fully recuse myself. My marriage is one thing and work is another. I don't combine them. Well, Tricia, they seem pretty freaking combined right now, don't they? I mean, her husband, the CEO of Strategy Group, Ben Yoho, did not respond to ProPublica's questions. So not only did DHS give a $143 million no-bid contract to an unknown LLC, but that unknown LLC then hired someone tied to Noem, someone literally married to the Noem aide in charge of giving out DHS ad contracts. And believe it or not, this is not the first scandal about Noem and this company, the Strategy Group. See, back when she was governor, Noem's office hired Strategy Group to make these ads. Yet again, a lot of costumes going on here. This is Noem dressed as a state trooper, a construction worker, a nurse, an accountant. Here's Noem dressed as an electrician, a welder, a dentist, and my favorite, a plumber. There were a lot of these ads, millions of dollars worth, paid for by South Dakota taxpayers. Those ads were the result of a bidding process, and the state says the process was done by the book. But ProPublica reports that a former official from Noem's South Dakota governor's office has since alleged that the bidding process was rigged. The former official said that a top Noem aide told them the governor would be angry if Strategy Group didn't win the contract. And then contemporaneous text messages reviewed by ProPublica corroborated that account, showing that senior Noem administration officials pushing for Strategy Group to get the contract. There's all that. Noem, of course, denies those allegations. I should note that MSNBC has not independently verified ProPublica's reporting. But if this reporting is accurate, and it's very detailed, and a company run by someone with personal and business ties to Noem herself has managed to score government contracts, huge ones, from Noem's agency with no bidding process and literally zero transparency, that should at least very much be a call for an investigation from somewhere, if not cause for Noem to be forced to ride off in the sunset on one of those horses.
Oh shit, okay. Yeah. They got that investigation going with all these people. And these people are going to go to jail. There's a lot of them that's going to go to jail. The problem is, are we willing to do what we have to do in order for them to go to jail? Are we willing to do what we got to do in order to put these people behind bars? Because they don't mean the country no good. They definitely don't. Okay? They don't mean the country no good at all. And here we are. We got a corrupt president on hand. I don't care how you slice it. He's corrupt in some ways. He's corrupt in... This is right. It's wild. He's corrupt in some ways, in so many ways, that it's embarrassing. It's almost embarrassing. But we got to put up with what we got to put up with, simply because we got still people that's in the chat, believing all of this stuff, believing what they hear. And that's the whole point. We can't believe everything that they're telling us. We know that he was in the files. We know he was in the file. We know he's done something on the island. We know all of these things. And yet and still we put up with the people that we put up with because we want to be people want to be right. Instead of wanting to be right, do what's right for the country. Do what's right for the people. Do what needs to be done for the people in this country. Instead of saying, "Oh no, we just want to do X, Y, and Z, and we just want to be behind this president," and no. We need to do what we need to do in order for this president to be a better president. It has nothing to do with whether he won the democracy, whether he won or he didn't win. What the hell is wrong with y'all? What the hell is wrong with y'all? Somebody tells you that the president did something bad and y'all gonna stick by him regardless of what he did. Even when he did bullshit. This president has done bullshit. He just has.
Criminal buffoon's latest attempt to cover up his involvement with his best friend, Jeffrey Epstein, and whatever it is in those files that he desperately does not want us to see. Because what we're seeing from Trump now, where he's saying that he wants the House to vote to release the Epstein files, this is just part of the cover-up. This isn't a change. And of course, the media is going right along with this, reporting that Donald Trump has done an about-face, and now he actually wants the Epstein files to be released. Of course, that's bullshit. You and I see right through this. But the media is playing right along, and of course his cult is far too stupid to understand what's really going on here. And what's really going on here is that he's just changing strategy. He's not changing his position on whether or not the Epstein files should be released. He's just changing his strategy about how to cover it all up. This is just a change in his PR strategy. Now, let's begin. I've got several points that I want to make about this, so please stick with me. But I want to begin with what he posted on Truth Social. I'm not going to read this whole thing. It's rather lengthy. Most of it's filled with the same crap that he puts in just about everything he posts on Truth Social. But there's a couple key parts to this that I want to highlight. He begins this way. He says, as I said on Friday night aboard Air Force One to the fake news media, House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide. It's time to move on from this Democrat hoax. Well, if it's a hoax, why did you just order an investigation? Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. He goes on to say, and this is really important. He says, and the House Oversight Committee can have whatever they are legally entitled to. I don't care. All I do care about is Republicans getting back on point, which is the economy, affordability, blah, 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 blah. So let me read that again. The House Oversight Committee can have whatever they are legally entitled to. Does that sound like he's going to give them everything? No. He's only going to turn over what he and Pam Bondi says they are legally entitled to. And so whatever Donald Trump doesn't want to show, they're going to say, well, you're not legally entitled to that, which of course is why Trump ordered an investigation into Bill Clinton and Larry Summers and whoever the hell else. It's so that they could have an ongoing investigation and they can use that as a reason for not turning over anything to Congress or anything that they don't want to turn over. They're just going to say, well, we'd love to turn that over, but there's an ongoing investigation into Bill Clinton and Larry Summers and a bunch of Democrats, and we really need to hold them accountable. So I'd love to release it, but we just can't because of the ongoing investigation that I just ordered to protect my own ass. So that's what's going on there. And finally, at the end of this rambling post, he says, let's start talking about the Republican Party's record-setting achievements and not falling into the Epstein trap, which he puts in quotations and in all caps. Not falling into the Epstein trap, which is actually a curse on the Democrats. Now, if Donald Trump really believed that it was a curse on the Democrats, meaning it was bad for Democrats, then he wouldn't be shutting up about it. This is all they'd be talking about. But he wants to move on. Supposedly, he wants to move on from something that's bad for Democrats. Of course, this is absurd. Now, I want to make a couple of points about this. Number one is the obvious. He doesn't need Congress to vote to call on him to release the Epstein files, because that's all it is. It would just be Congress. Even if this passes, it would just be Congress demanding Trump release the Epstein files. Okay, Trump doesn't need Congress to say that. Trump can release the files whenever the hell he wants to. He could have released them all on day one, but he didn't, because he's in there. And he's in there a lot. He's in there more than anyone else. He's mentioned more than 1,000 times in those friggin' files. And whatever is in there is really, really bad. Because look at the lengths to which he has already gone to try to cover this all up. I mean, think of all of the distractions, all the crazy ass things he has done and said in the last, I don't know, however long this fat orange piece of shit has been president. Look at all the things he's done. All of those things were a desperate attempt to change the subject from Epstein, including shutting the government down. That was an Epstein government shutdown. Donald Trump never wanted the government to reopen. And you're seeing why. I mean, what's going on right now with the Epstein files is exactly why Donald Trump did not want the government to reopen. Now, he had to pretend he wanted the government reopened. And once, Democrats and Republicans in Congress cut a deal, he had to sign it. He can't make it look like he wanted the government shut down. But he did not want a deal to be reached. He wished that the government was shut down right now, because as long as the government was shut down, it gave Grinder Mike the perfect excuse for not swearing in Congresswoman Grijalva, and therefore she couldn't be the 218th vote on the discharge petition, which would never have caused a vote in the House on releasing the Epstein files, and Trump wouldn't be in this position. So, I mean, look at everything he has done to try to cover this up. Now, all of a sudden, he wants to release the Epstein files? Bullshit. The only reason he's doing this now, the only reason the change in the PR strategy is because Congresswoman Grijalva was sworn in, she signed the discharge petition, and now there's going to be a vote in the House. And then, even after that happened, he tried everything he could to get Republicans to vote against the bill to release the Epstein files. Remember, he dragged Nancy Mace into the freaking Situation Room at the White House with Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and all these people trying to pressure her to change her vote, because she is one of the ones who signed on to this discharge petition, and he was trying to get her to change her mind. But then that didn't work, and then the floodgates started opening. And then it looks like there's going to be dozens and dozens of Republicans who vote in favor of releasing the Epstein files, even though Trump has done everything he can to pressure them not to, including, by the way, calling Marjorie Taylor Greene a traitor. And what do you think that was all about? That was all about making an example of her, to scare all the other Republicans into not voting for releasing the Epstein files. Look what I just did to her. I called her a traitor. You know, I sicked my mob on her. If you don't want the same thing happening to you, you better not vote to release the Epstein files. But that didn't work either. And we're getting, you know, it was clear that these Republicans were going to vote en masse to release the Epstein files. So he had to change his strategy. So, all right, I can't stop it. So I'm just going to say I was in favor of it. Because he's got to do two things. He's got to cover it up and make it look like he's not covering up. He's got to keep those things hidden while making it look like he wants them released. So this is part of that. Now, if this passes in the House, which it's going to, I mean, that's the whole reason he had to, you know, change his tune here. So it passes the House. Well, it still needs to pass the Senate. And it's probably not going to pass the Senate. In fact, it looks like they're not even going to have a vote on it. Here, take a look at this video over the weekend of Senator Barrasso being asked about whether or not the Senate is going to hold a vote on releasing the Epstein files.
If the Epstein measure passes the House, will it get a vote in the Senate?
It'll come to the Senate. We'll take a look at it. If it passes the House, we'll see what it says. And we all want accountability and transparency. But to me, this is not about truth. It's not about justice. This is about an attempt by the Democrats to make President Trump a lame duck president. And I'm not going to aid and abet them in their efforts to do that.
But you don't commit to a vote, Senator? You don't commit to holding a vote if the Epstein measure passes in the House? Just very quickly, we're almost out of time.
Well, what I've said and what Senate Leader Thune has said is we'll look at it. We'll look at what's come over. I don't even know that it's going to pass the House. The Senate will make a decision. We'll have a discussion about it and make a decision from there.
See, that's where they're going. That's exactly where they're going. They're going to try to stall for the tapes to be released. And if the Senate takes it up and votes to have it released, Trump is going to come up with the excuse that it's under investigation. And that's going to tear the Republican Party down the fucking middle. And it's going to be a blue wave like you never saw before if they try to cover this up. It's too late to try to cover it all the way up. It's too late. If you try and we see that you tried and we know that you did it deliberately, not for people to see, it's over for you Republicans. It's over.
Does that sound like the Senate is going to hold a vote on releasing the Epstein files?
Hell no. They're going to try to cover up. And people know it's a cover up. Now we know it's a cover up. It's too late, Republicans.
Doesn't sound like that to me. And then, even if they do hold a vote, they have to have 60 votes. to overcome the filibuster rule, the cloture rule. So they need 60 votes in the Senate to pass that bill. Now, all Trump has to do is get enough Republicans to oppose it. And it will never pass the Senate, and that'll be it. It'll be dead. And he can get to say, hey, I supported releasing it, but the Senate voted it down. It's not my fault. But then even if there are so many layers of protection here, so follow me, protection for Trump, even if it passes the House, and even if they overcome a filibuster and it passes the Senate, it still needs to be signed by Trump. Now, he's kind of talked himself into a box here, right? He says he wants it released, so how can he veto it? I don't know. He could change his mind any friggin' time he wants. He could veto it. But what's more likely to happen is he signs it, and then we go back to what he says right here in his Truth Social post. He says they can have whatever they are legally entitled to. So Trump will sign it. He'll say he wants full transparency, but then because of the ongoing investigation that he ordered for precisely this reason, he will say, hey, we turned over everything we are legally entitled, that you are legally entitled to. We turned over everything that we legally can. But there's a lot of stuff that we just can't because of the ongoing investigation into all these Democrats. And we've got to hold these Democrats accountable. But as soon as those investigations are complete, then I'll turn it over to you. But that investigation will never be complete. And so he'll never have to turn it over. Okay, so there's that. He'll release some stuff. I mean, I'm sure he'll release some stuff. I mean, there's plenty of stuff in there I'm sure that he doesn't give a shit about because it doesn't implicate him. But all the good stuff, from our perspective, all the stuff that would nail this piece of shit to the wall, and that stuff is in there. Because if that stuff wasn't in there, he would have just released it a long time ago. He would have released everything and just gotten it over with. I mean, look at what this piece of shit has survived. He literally incited a violent insurrection against his own country, and he survived that. So if there's some stuff that just makes him look bad for a while, he could have just released all of that. I mean, look at the damage it's been doing to him with his own party. He wouldn't be going through all of this if there wasn't something really bad in there. I've been saying it for months. Whatever is in there is so bad that I believe that Trump believes that if it came out, it would destroy him. That's why he has gone to all these lengths to cover it up, because I think it is that bad that he thinks it would destroy him. So there's no chance in hell. I don't care what the Congress does. He's not going to release anything that incriminates him. No chance in hell. Now, here's another thing he could do, by the way. Oh, before I get to that, I've thought about this. You've probably thought about this yourselves. Why doesn't he just destroy all the incriminating evidence? Haven't you wondered that? I don't know the answer to that. I mean, destruction of evidence, that's not good. But does Donald Trump give a shit about the law? No. He's got this immunity decision. He doesn't really need to worry about that. I think maybe they are. Well, maybe destroying evidence, but maybe just scrubbing all references to him, or at least all incriminating references to him. And you know what? That could take a lot of time. Remember, we got reports that Pam Bondi had all of these Justice Department officials, FBI agents, and people at Maine Justice combing through all the federal government's records for any mention of Trump, devoted I don't know how many thousands of man hours to finding any reference to Donald Trump in these records. Why would they do that? Well, they want to see what's in there. What do they need to suppress? What do they need to cover up? And how do we scrub this? How do we redact this? How do we scrub it? Maybe we get rid of some of this stuff if it's really bad. I don't know, but that probably takes a long time. That might be ongoing. And maybe some of those records will be released. I don't know. But I'm sure that some of that is going on. But I also had another thought, because I mentioned this in a video that I did yesterday, that people think that, oh, well, because Trump has ordered an investigation, now they can't legally release any of this stuff. That's actually not true. People think that's true, but it's not. Just because there's an ongoing investigation, there's no legal prohibition against releasing information, even if there's an ongoing investigation. The only exception to that, however, is grand jury information. So what they could do, and because grand jury information is required by law to be kept secret. They can't just release that without violating the law. So what they could do, I don't know if they're doing this, what they could do is take all that incriminating evidence against Trump and just present that to the grand jury. Now, there's obvious problems with that, because then you're presenting all this horrible evidence against Trump to a grand jury. Now, the grand jury can't just return indictments. I mean, a prosecutor would need to present them with an indictment and, ask them to vote on it. So just putting that in the grand jury records does not mean, well then if they do that, they'll just indict Trump. No prosecutor is going to ask the grand jury to return an indictment against Trump. But if they bring this stuff and put it into evidence in the grand jury, now it is protected by law against release to the public. So that is a way that they would be legally prohibited from releasing this stuff to the public. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of what they might be thinking about. Okay, so we got redaction, grand jury, the investigation. Now, so Pam Bondi, after Trump the other day demanded an investigation into Bill Clinton and Larry Summers and whoever else, of course, Pam Bondi goes and she appoints a prosecutor, the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, to lead this investigation. But just a few months ago, she testified under oath to Congress that there was no evidence, no probable cause of any kind that would be predication for an investigation into anything else other than what has already transpired. There is no predication. There is no evidence sufficient to open an investigation against anyone other than people who have already been charged. Jeffrey Epstein, who is now deceased, and Ghislaine Maxwell. But now, all of a sudden, they're opening an investigation into Bill Clinton and Larry Summers and all these other people. Did she commit perjury, or is she just a political hack? Well, maybe a little of both. And then finally, about Marjorie Taylor Greene. This shows you how Donald Trump, he's panicked. He's panicked. He's going from one thing to the next. He's changing his mind back and forth all over the place. So just a couple days ago, his strategy was to try to block the House from voting in favor of releasing the Epstein files. That's what he was doing with trying to intimidate Nancy Mace. And that's what he was doing by attacking Marjorie Taylor Greene. Attack her to send a message to all those other Republicans: you better not vote to release the Epstein files, or this could happen to you. That was intended to scare all the rest of them. The problem is that it further split his MAGA base, because not everyone turned on Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, normally that's the case. Trump attacks somebody, even a Republican, the rest of the cult turns on that person. That's not what happened with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, a lot of them did, but a lot of them did not. A lot of them sided with Marjorie Taylor Greene and made many of them openly question Trump.
And that's why this is not going to go away. That's why this Epstein thing is not going to go away. As much as they want it to go away, it's not going to go away. Just the fact that they're not turning against Marjorie Taylor Greene, just for the fact that they're sticking with her and she's saying America first and it should be released. Everybody knows that if you stick with her, 9 times out of you stick with her, it's going to happen. She going to fight tooth and nail. I don't like Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's trailer trash extraordinaire, but that is what she is, and she will fight for the underdog and she will fight for the poor guy. I get that. But she fights for the wrong poor guys. She always fight for the poor guys that get screwed over. But the whole point is they going to stick with her. And the whole point is they got a whole bunch of them that stuck with her. turned against Trump. We know what's in the file. We don't even have to have a conversation about if he's in the files. We know he's in the files. You know he's in the file. Because Trump don't try to hide nothing unless it's to do with him. He don't hide nothing if his friends are in there. He don't give a damn if his friends are in there. It ain't me. I don't give a damn if it is me. His IQ is 70, okay? He don't care about nobody but his goddamn self. So he's in the files, and he's not trying to hide from nobody or for anybody. He is the one, okay? And the thing is, something is in those files that's so bad that man is scared everybody's going to find out. There is so much in them files that he's afraid that everybody's going to find out. We don't know what, we don't know how, we don't know when, but we do know there's plenty of stuff in them files for people to look out and the people to go through. Look at those emails. Tag those emails, put those emails together. Those emails show a pattern of behavior that Trump is involved in, that Epstein was tracking. Epstein was tracking his not as a something to use against him, but he knew more about Trump than anybody else. So if he wanted to take him down, he could. He didn't want to take him down because they were co-conspirators in whatever was happening. He didn't want to take him down, but he knew Trump wasn't going to let him stay in prison. He knew ain't no way I'd go to prison for 20, 30 years and the president the person that I know, the president, is one of my best friends who was a co-conspirator with things I was doing. And then he ended up taking a dirt nap. He ended up getting a dirt nap took on him. Hell no. I ain't going to prison for that long. So what could happen? I'm speculating. Somebody came in there and gave him a dirt nap. He didn't commit suicide. Somebody made him couldn't. Something happened. That's all I'm going to say. Something going to happen. Please like, share, subscribe. Do what you got to do. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please come back. We will be back later on this afternoon for more content. I read some of them. Yeah, you got to connect the dots on those things. Y'all come back. We'll be back later on. We have more content, more juicy stories. It ain't never a boring day as long as you got this president being the president. Y'all like, share, and subscribe, please, and thank you. Like, share, and subscribe. We will definitely be back. We will definitely be